Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of D.E.I. Deathwatch, where we chronicle the downfall and the doubling down of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm your host, Scribelite. Welcome to Monday. Wonderful, melodious Monday. Apologies for the brief delay there. I was caught up because one of the stories that I had prepared to read to you today has been scrubbed from existence. I don't know. USA Today had this very interesting headline. I think I can still find the actual headline. Hold on a second. In my search results, maybe, because it did exist at one time. Let's see if I can still find it here. I found it on, yeah, there it is. Okay, so just, and maybe it'll work this time. Maybe it'll work this time. I don't know. Let me share my screen here with, okay, so these are searching for DEI stories in the news today. And there you can see that one. DEI is losing ground as white men make gains in the boardroom. Now, if you think about that headline for a second, it's almost like it says that it's a bad thing that white men should be gaining anything, and the DEI, at least implicitly, was there to prevent white men from doing something because they're white men. But that couldn't be so, right? I mean, DEI's for everybody. Now, when I went to this link just a moment ago, the story was gone. The existence of this story having existed, the evidence is still there. So I don't know what's going to happen when I click on this link. Hopefully it's going to take us to the story. No. It is still error 403 forbidden. Why? I would love to know. And the other thing was I tried to go to the Wayback Machine to see if this had already been archived. Maybe it had. It's been around for 4 days. Every time I go to the Wayback Machine right now, I get an error saying too many requests. So I don't know what's going on with this particular story. I'm going to try to still retrieve it if I can, but I can't even get an archive version of this story right now. So I will try again before the end of the stream to see if I can't retrieve it. But I just wanted it on the record that this story, at least the headline and the implication thereof, did exist at one time. DEI is losing ground as white men make gains in the boardroom. And the subheading, as much as I can read of it, is corporate boards have never had more women and people of color, but with the DEI backlash, white men are landing jobs at the fastest clip in ... I want to read this story now, more so than I did before I started doing all this. And it was there. I did look at it. I did, click on the link earlier today, and the story was there. So maybe USA Today is just having a problem in general. But we're going to come back to that story. I'm going to attempt to retrieve it either now or in the future for a future episode. And when I do, I'll try to, save it for posterity if I can find it. But anyway, before we get to everything else, who's joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon? The Alexandria, good afternoon. Avocatus Diaboli, hello. Cephtus Wolf, hello. Keeverdam, hello. And thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the link, guys, at the top of the chat box to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society donation page. Please take a look at that when you have the opportunity. If you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the link. Blue-Eyed Scream, hello. Morgan King, hello. Adam Nixon, good afternoon. Good afternoon, y'all. Sorry for being a bad subscriber. Well, the only necessary action to be taken if you want to be a good subscriber is just subscribe to the channel. And the only necessary action I forgot to do before I went live was turn on my little light, or little extra illumination. So hello, Adam Nixon. Walter Tomaszewski. My cats just bought their first car. A Cadillac. The engine purrs and gets 25 miles per gallon. Oh. Mice per gallon. Okay, Walt. You got me. Good afternoon. Captain JPS, hello. Kelly Hans, pardon me. Now, the question is, does Hans ever go solo? Good afternoon, Kelly. Apologies for bumbling over your name. It's my problem. Miranda Stone is here. Guys, I don't know if you know about Miranda Stone, but I know a thing or two. And one of them is... Unfairophilia. Hello. Let's see, did I already say hello to Morgan King? Well, Morgan King, if I already said hello, you got two. Kiro Soldier, hello. The Blakester, hello. Who else is here? Anybody else? Jamie Milquist. They heard where you were streaming. I guess they found out that I was going to be talking about it. Because I did advertise about USA Today a little bit here and there. Andy, the Toy Master Masterson. Guys, check out Andy, the Toy Master Masterson on YouTube. He makes toys of people. Now, I'm not saying it's just a candy-coated, elaborate scheme to make voodoo dolls and control people from afar through magic. I'm not saying that. But you never know. Mark Fields. Good afternoon, Mark, and thank you so much, Mark. Positive vibes, good sir. Thank you so much, Mark. Nice to see you. Hope everything's going well over on the Midnight's Edge in the Morning stream. I believe they interviewed Alejandro Marin or Carlos. I interviewed him for a different movie that he made years ago. Well, the movie he made years ago, I didn't interview him years ago, although it might have been last year. But his new movie's coming out, The Unexpecteds, or is already out. I can watch it. But anyway, hope everything went well on the show this morning. I had to miss it. Daryl Odell, hello. Simon Willikins, hello. Green Death, hello. And I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for not for that meddling scribe-light. I know. Your grand long-term scheme of creating simulacrum of multiple YouTubers and other minor celebrities to puppeteer them to your whims. It's been defeated. Anyway. Okay, let me check that USA Today story again. Nope, still forbidden. I'll have to try that later on. All right. Well, anyway, we have other stories, everybody. Let's talk about... Let's see. Last week, we talked about how putting DEI or having a DEI history on your resume was now a mark in your disfavor. Well, that trend is continuing, thankfully. Because over at University Drops Job Posting, after DEI requirement exposed... Professor says, I would not be hired today. University of Washington requires a one-page diversity statement for new professor applications. Yes, a diversity statement is something that had been required, or at least advised, for not only job applications at colleges, but also in admissions and proposals for being admitted to colleges. Give your diversity statement. I've done at least 2 or 3 streams in the past on college applications diversity statements. You know, because they can't ask you specifically what your race is, but if they just give you something called a generic diversity statement and you volunteer that information, these are the loopholes they go through to try to avoid accountability, and it's thankfully running out. A University of Washington professor unleashed on the college's strict diversity, equity, and inclusion requirements for new hires and a teacher performance rubric that includes a scorecard measuring DEI strategy used to assess potential professor performance. I love alliteration. Stuart Regis A non-tenured teaching professor at UW's Paul G. Allen School of Computer Science and Engineering said he wouldn't have been hired under the strict DEI pledge requirements, despite his academic achievements at the university. Quote, "You have to say that you have a deep knowledge of the DEIs," sounds like a disease, "in order to get a high rating on all of this," Regis told Fox News Digital. "Funny thing is, I'm convinced I would not be hired if I applied today. There's just no way, even though I've won the Distinguished Teaching Award here at the university." The University of Washington's listing for an associate professor of school psychology role includes a mandatory, quote, "diversity statement for all applicants, signifying a pledge to the university's, quote, commitment to racial equity." Quote, "A one-page diversity statement describing your identity, positionality." Positionality. Yes, this is where you sit on the caste system of identity politics. Positionality, experience, and commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and alignment to the APA's equity, diversity, and inclusion framework. The job posting reads, "In addition, describe your philosophy of teaching and learning, including how your work will further the College of Education's commitment to racial equity and social justice." Yes, you have to make a declaration of loyalty to DEI. "I will be racially equitable in all that I do, and by that I mean I will racially audit every room I enter and assess people on their skin color for great justice. Social justice." Seattle Red radio host, Jason Rantz. I mean, that is a pretty good last name for a radio show host. Also blasted the university's hiring policy, saying in his recent op-ed that, quote, "this application process makes it easier to discriminate against conservatives, which is precisely why you won't hear the far-left faculty speaking out." Maybe. I'm less concerned about someone's political beliefs than someone having to declare that they're going to be an active racist, sexist, and so on in order to be an employee at your school. But sure, you could certainly derive a political angle from this. But if someone's really desperate to get a job, it really doesn't matter what their politics are if they're going to adhere to this nonsense. Anyway, the university isn't looking for diverse thought, it's enforcing a monoculture of approved political opinions, Rantz added. Ideological, quasi-political, sure. In addition to the mandatory application diversity statement, the professor explained that a grading rubric to assess a potential professor's performance, I love alliteration, includes a section labeled diversity, ranking applicants on a scale of poor to excellent. Oh man, please tell me, where do I sit on the scale of diversity quality? A poor rating describes the professor displaying, quote, "little evidence of potential to contribute to the UW diversity blueprint." And there's a hyperlink. Oh, man. What is the... what is the diversity blueprint? Okay, we'll look at that in a moment. Let's continue on there. Quote, "I've known faculty, very talented faculty, who've left because of this kind of pressure and people who won't even apply," Regis explained. Quote, "I think a lot of grad students who might have wanted a career in teaching are kind of saying, why bother?" Teaching professor recruiting rubrics. Teaching rubrics. Oh, man. Okay, I think that's on the website. We'll go look at that in a moment. Quote, "I mean, look at all of the crap that you have to deal with," Regis added. Quote, "You have to kind of basically make up a statement that's going to make them happy, saying the things that you're going to do," unquote. Yeah. The publicly funded. Now, what happens when you have a publicly funded institution, i.e. an institution that is subsidized by taxpayer money, and they start talking about assessing people on the basis of race? What happens? Let me take that back. What should happen? Oh, that's right. Title VI should kick in. And that organization, that institution, should have all of its federal funding terminated. That's what should happen from long-established federal law. So the University of Washington apparently doesn't like however many, and I'm going to guess here. I mean, they're not Harvard, so I'm guessing they're not getting billions of taxpayer dollars, but I'm going to say, I don't know, a couple $100 million? Let's just say several $1 million of some note of taxpayer money. They just don't want any more, or they shouldn't be receiving. The publicly funded University of Washington's dedication to challenge itself to implement DEI policies brings into question its alignment with President Donald Trump's executive order from January titled President Donald J. Trump Protects Civil Rights and Merit-Based Opportunity by Ending Illegal DEI. I don't care what its alignment is with Donald Trump's executive order. I care what its alignment is with long-standing civil rights laws. Long-standing civil rights laws that it should already have been adhering to, but is demonstrably not now and hasn't in the past, because I'm guessing this did not just happen yesterday. And I know I've done videos that have featured some elements of the University of Washington in the course of my channel's lifetime. There was one scripted one I looked at. Why can't my memory work for things that are important? I did a video, I want to say it was 2017, 2018, and it was about a department or a branch of the University of Washington where you had a group of people, a group of students, and it was called like the Game Lab or something, and they were practicing radical diversity. Yeah. Why do I remember this stuff? And it had something to do with a project getting greenlit on Steam, and they brought in a diversity expert and some games expert guy that had worked for Microsoft or Bungie or something. Why do I remember these things? I don't know, but I did. So this is not the first rodeo for the University of Washington and discriminatory practices. Jay Blizza, thank you so much. I heard someone bring up the White Fragility book by Robin DiAngelo today in a YouTube video. Isn't that a book you used to cover? Well, I used to cover Robin DiAngelo, and I mean, by extension, her book. I looked at several things that she's done. One was a commencement speech she gave. I looked at one time where she read portions of her book to an audience, and as she's reading it, she's pointing out her own inconsistencies or hypocrisies. That was fun. And then, yes. Well, anyway, short answer. Too late. Yes, I have profiled in at least 4 or 5 different instances Robin DiAngelo herself and White Fragility, at least in concept, her book. And it's been brought up several times by other people in other videos. So I'm surprised it's still being brought up. But it's still out there. I think the Matt Walsh documentary probably put it to bed for the most part when he interviewed her or tried to. But yeah, because what was it? He was doing this sort of like Borat kind of thing, pretending to be a journalist or a documentarian or something that wasn't Matt Walsh, and he was talking to her. And then he brought in somebody off camera for her to apologize to because the guy was black or something. It's been a while since I've seen that. But anyway, yes, Robin DiAngelo. Well, I haven't thought about her in forever. She's still out there. Still doing her thing, I'm sure. Oh, she's made tons of money. Her and Ibram X. Kendi, those 2 books, White Fragility and How to Be Anti-Racist, they conjured up at the perfect time. I mean, White Fragility has been around since, I want to say 2014, 2015. But then How to Be Anti-Racist became really popular as soon as George Floyd died. And that guy made a ton of money off of that, and a bunch of other things too. Anyway, quote, many corporations and universities use DEI as an excuse for biased and unlawful employment practices and illegal admissions preferences, ignoring the fact that DEI's foundational rhetoric and ideas foster intergroup hostility and authoritarianism, the executive order reads. That is true. But again, we don't have to worry so much about the nomenclature of DEI as we do about established civil rights laws. In March, the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights launched investigations into a number of universities for, quote, race exclusionary practices in education programs and activities. Programs and activities? Boy, oh boy, where have I heard that rhetoric before? Oh, that's right. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. And since money is fungible, if you're a university and you accept any federal money, everything you do falls under that restriction. The University of Washington was among those universities being investigated. Well, the proof is right there. As with so many other institutions and businesses and organizations that I've looked at, they make no bones about it. They'll tell you to your face, we're doing this. We're being discriminatory. We are tempting fate, at best, with civil rights laws. And it's one big dare for the government to do something. Quote, the University of Washington does not view diversity and access as being in opposition to merit and excellence, and we remain committed to providing access and excellence for all, a spokesperson for the university told Fox News Digital. The university does not view diversity and access as being in opposition to merit and excellence. No. Okay. Racial equity. Let's go back to that key term. In fact, let's take a look at that website of theirs. Just for reference. Let's look at their diversity blueprint. So this is from the University of Washington, as cited in the article. Diversity Blueprint. The Diversity Blueprint begins with the University of Washington's Diversity Council, a body composed of faculty, staff, and students from across all academic and administrative units, which is charged with advising the Vice President for Minority Affairs and Diversity and University Diversity Officer on campus diversity issues. In 2010, 15 years ago, the Diversity Council responded to the campus community's calls for the creation of a comprehensive plan that would guide the University of Washington towards achieving its stated goals. Stated goals, you say? Please tell me there are quotas. And if not on this page, do I have to go in the Wayback Machine when it's working? Oh boy. For diversity and inclusion, in the spirit of those calls, a diversity blueprint was developed to challenge the university to live up to its mission of valuing diverse perspectives, right, creating a welcoming learning environment for all students, and promoting broad access and equal opportunity, not equality of outcome, mind you. Progress. Although we have made real progress since 2010, much work remains to be done, and our goals continue to evolve. The 2022 through 2026 version updates 5 of the 6 goals from the previous blueprint, renewing and deepening our commitments to making the UW more inclusive and more equitable for students, staff, and academic personnel from diverse backgrounds, as well as our commitments to improving transparency and accountability. Our new goal challenges us to move beyond simply assessing diversity needs across our 3 campuses by prompting us to develop opportunities for place-based education and engagement. Okay, this latest version also reflects a fuller understanding of our community's needs for access to relevant resources. Boy, I would love to see version 1.0 of that blueprint before you got all the attention that you're getting now. Let's see. The Diversity Seed Grants Program. What's the Diversity Seed Grants Program? Is it for seeds? Place-based. Yeah, I want to look at some early versions of this stuff. I have a sneaking suspicion this stuff may have been cleaned up in recent years, or blueprint goals: cultivate an accessible, inclusive, and equitable climate. Attract, retain, and graduate a diverse and excellent student body. The university must continue to actively recruit and support a diverse body of undergraduate, graduate, and professional students. The university must increase its capacity to serve students from communities that are underrepresented in higher education, including students who identify as Indigenous, Black, and people of color, students from low and modest income families, students who identify as disabled, LGBTQ+, veterans, and alumni of foster care, international students, transfer students, and students who are part of recent immigrant populations. I keep having this thought popping in my mind. Do you think the diversity blueprint and the diversity office counts as a program or an activity at this university that accepts federal financial assistance? And they're assessing their goals on the basis of race, ethnicity, country of origin, etc. I don't know. I don't know. Attract and retain a diverse staff. The university must increase efforts to recruit staff from backgrounds that are underrepresented in higher education, including staff who identify as Indigenous, Black, and people of color. Oh, so in your hiring practices, you're touching Title VII. You know, Title VII. Oh, maybe you don't know Title VII. I don't know. Does the University of Washington have a law school? Maybe you should look that one up, where you're not allowed to hire people or discriminate against or for people on the basis of their race or their religion or their gender and so on. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. Last 9 years or so. Anyway, I think this deserves a little bit more of a deep dive. Maybe this will be Saturday stream stuff. I'm gonna put a pin in that, do some research, see if I can't find some previous iterations of the University of Washington's diversity blueprint. See if there was something more. I mean, that's pretty explicit right there. There's not a whole lot of mystery there, but I'm curious to see what was version 1.0 of their blueprint. How was it stated back in the day? How were they operating on that basis for the last several years? Be curious to find out. The USA Today article is still not coming up. It's still not coming up. It did exist. I want it to exist. Let me try this again. And the Wayback Machine, at least for me, I don't know if somebody else. Tell you what, I'm going to put the link to the story in the chat. And as long as it allows me to do that, I don't know if it will. But if somebody else, because maybe it's just me, maybe it's my VPN or something, I don't know. If somebody else can check the Wayback Machine and see if this got archived. Oh, wait. What's this? Morgan King. Wait, what? The USA Today is in Discord for you. Oh, wait. Did you find it? Did they? Maybe they just changed the URL. Hold on. What? Wait. Oh my gosh. Maybe they just changed the URL. No, it's still error. Okay, it must be my. It must be my VPN or something. Because I'm not allowed to look at it. And I don't know why, because my VPN wasn't disallowing it before. I'm confused. For some reason, I am not able to view this story. I get arrow 403 forbidden, no matter what browser I use. So I'm assuming it's my VPN. And I'm not going to mess around with my VPN on the air, because that'll probably kibosh my connection. So I'll take back any conspiracy theory that the article has been scrubbed. I'd love to be able to view this today. Okay. Tell you what. I'm going to go. I might be gone just for a moment. Because I know that if I muck with my VPN, it's going to take me off the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit for just a moment, and I'll come back because it has to refresh everything. So I'm going to leave the stream going for just a minute. I'll be back. Don't worry. Okay, I have returned. I know. Okay, and now I have the story. So it was, for whatever reason, my VPN. Okay, conspiracy theory erased. But now I have to get past all these pop-ups that I have on here. Okay, so let's finally take a look at the much vaunted USA Today article about white men losing ground. Ooh, my voice goes all kind of kooky. All right, everything lined up, everything good? You guys hear me? Okay. Also, before I get to advocates, I set my VPN to Japan so can view all the sickest... Good for you, Advocatus. Good for you. Let's see. They did an update to the article day at 12:50 p.m. Yeah, so I really should capture these things early in the future. I'll make a note for the future. Okay. D.E.I. is losing ground as white men make gains in the boardroom. Stop all these videos and pop-ups and things. Good gravy. Okay. Following the national uprising over the murder of George Floyd, corporations sought out more women and people of color to diversify their board of directors. For a time, the once ironclad dominance of men, especially white men, in the corporate boardroom appeared to be slipping. Over the past 5 years, racial and ethnic representation rose 20% and female representation 18% in companies included in the Russell 3000 Index, according to data and analytics from ISS Corporate. Today, the boardrooms of the nation's largest companies have never been more diverse. But new data shows that the diversity, equity, and inclusion backlash is shifting boardroom demographics once again, eroding gains made by women and people of color as corporations hire white men at the fastest clip in years. It was all artificial. They were forced to hire people based on their race and gender. If they didn't get money incentives from corporations and investment firms, and the executives didn't get their bounties for hiring the right kinds of people. Oh my gosh, as soon as you take off the restrictions on who you're allowed to hire, things change, if you can believe it. This year, women account... Why is everything glitching out? Okay, this year, women accounted for a third of new board hires in the S&P 500, down from a high of 44% in 2022, ISS Corporate says. Executives of color... this is starting to drive me nuts. I'm gonna have a seizure here in a second. Executives of color made up 19% of new board hires, down from 44% in 2021. White men were a majority of new director hires for the first time since 2017. You mean 2017, roundabouts the time where D.E.I. started rising up in everybody's requirements? Okay, I'm sorry. Whatever's going on with this page is starting to give me a headache, so I'm ducking out of that. Anyway, I think, and that sucks that happened with that article, because I really wanted to read it, more of it. But if you can believe it, if you've had a regime for the last nigh on 10 years commanding you through social justice, media pressure, government pressure, to hire people first and foremost on the basis of their race and or gender, specifically that they were not white and not men, and you're not allowed to, or to do so is a mark against you, like the Scarlet Letter or something. Now that those rules have been discovered to be illegal and have been disincentivized by executive order, if you can believe it, people are being hired as per normal. And by normal, I mean their merit, and not being discriminated against or for on the basis of their appearance. And color me crazy, but population demographics alone are balancing out again to where they were before all this nonsense started. That does not mean that white men are better employees writ large because they're white men. It's just the balancing act of reality. And we have to be reminded of the Thomas Sowell quote. When people get used to preferential treatment, equal treatment seems like discrimination. So rolling back DEI policies that have been, preferencing people because of what they looked like for so long, now that that's all gone, oh, now it seems like it's some kind of injustice, some kind of imbalance. Oh my gosh. Evil reigns supreme now that we're not allowed to be unfair to people anymore. Clamhammer. Well, except the crime rate. I don't know what you mean. That's good. Green Death, color me crazy. Sorry, I can't. I forgot my crayons. It was also kind of a, Inception racial joke. Color me crazy. Also, Jill Powers, the River Daughter. Another friend from the Midnight's Edge in the Morning crew. Hi, Jill. Hope you're having a good day. Anyway, okay, well, the big mystery is solved. USA Today posted a story, and shock of shocks. When you're not allowed to discriminate anymore, that discrimination pattern starts to fall by the wayside. I know, it's crazy. Cray-cray in the hey-hey. Let's move on. Oh yeah, back to college for a second. California University drops race-based scholarship in big blow to DEI. Oh, you mean... I know I'm leaning on this quite a bit today. Do you mean to tell me that an institution that accepts federal financial assistance is doing away with a racially preferenced program or activity? Golly. Good. This month saw yet another win against DEI in higher education, as a major California university recently dropped a racial scholarship under threat of lawsuit. This is the author talking. In July, I wrote about how the University of California at San Diego had been skirting California and federal law against affirmative action via the Black Alumni Scholarship Fund, as was reported by the Washington Free Beacon's Aaron Siberium. The scholarship was set up to be only available to black students. Yeah, and as I've talked about before, California, oddly enough, was one of the few states back in 1996, I think it was, that outlawed affirmative action statewide of their own volition, despite the fact that it was, at least at that time, allowed to occur on a federal level. Yeah, progressive California, one of the few states to outlaw affirmative action itself. And so all these colleges looked for every loophole they could to still try to push this stuff forward. And apparently, there was a racist scholarship, if you can believe it. It was a clever move by the school to dodge Proposition 209, an anti-affirmative action law passed by voters in 1997. Oh, 97? Oh, I thought it was 96. Maybe it was proposed in 96. And passed in 97. Anyway. By voters in 1997 by essentially offloading its discrimination on a separate private organization. Loopholes. Like I said, loopholes. Let's see. Several other programs in other states have used similar programs to sidestep the push to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes, have a third party do all the illegal stuff for you. Or the legally questionable stuff. Remember Hive Diversity? Remember that app, Hive Diversity? I think they just changed their name to Hive now. Yeah, they act as a go-between from employers and college students. And they would they'd effectively act as a racial filter or a diversity filter. So that you applied through Hive and they just, sort of casually asked you, tell us your diversity story. Because the employer, they can't really ask you what your race is or your gender necessarily or your personal background or anything. But if you willingly put information into a profile on your Hive Diversity app, and then that information gets sent to the employer, and they just happen to see information that you volunteered, well, then they didn't ask you about your background. So if they make a decision based on that information that you volunteered through a third-party app, then it's technically not them doing it. Anyway, But this workaround turned out to be too clever by half. The Californians for Equal Rights Foundation nonprofit group and its legal representative, the Pacific Legal Foundation, sued the school using the Ku Klux Klan Act on behalf of student Kai Peters. Peters said he was denied the scholarship because he wasn't black. Peters had called the use of the scholarship institutionalized racism, a phrase frequently used by the left with no meaning. It has a meaning. They want it to have a meaning, and then they, employ it themselves. But in this case, it seemed quite applicable. The Ku Klux Klan Act was designed, among other things, to ban conspiracies between public and private actors to deprive citizens of their equal rights under the law. That appears to have worked, as UC San Diego changed the name of the program to the Lenin Goins Alumni Scholarship Fund and made it available to students of all races. The school issued a statement after making the change. Oh, are they going to apologize for their years and years and years of racial exclusionism? Quote, "We are grateful to all of our community supporters who have generously given to fund scholarships for UC San Diego students, and we are committed to complying with all federal and state anti-discrimination laws," unquote. The statement read. Yeah. Now you are. I'd love to know, even if it's not legally actionable, because, there's a time clock on some of these things. I'd love to know how many people's civil rights the school effectively violated through this go-between in saying, you're not the right color to deserve this opportunity. Just let's all think about that for a second, if you haven't already. All these years, this college, through this intermediary, has told people they are not the right color to deserve an opportunity. An educational opportunity. Now, if I made that statement without any specificity to race, back in, 1963 or 1964, let's say, I think there's a law or a few laws that have been passed that were supposed to do away with that sort of thinking and penalize institutions who operated that way. I'm glad they changed it. I'm glad they finally fessed up to their mistake. But where is the accountability? Will this lawsuit still go through now that they've changed it? I hope so. The Pacific Legal Foundation was quick to declare victory. Quote, "This victory proves that the Constitution's promise of equality before the law still has teeth." No. Until someone's held to account in some meaningful way by the law punishing them. This is a dodge. They change a few words and change one policy element and they get off. The Ku Klux Klan Act was written to stop government actors from conspiring with private parties to discriminate, and that's exactly what happened here. When faced with the law, UCSD and its affiliates had no choice but to retreat. The action here is exactly what we demanded in our lawsuit. But what of all the years they spent violating it in the first place? Where is the fallout from that? Let's see. The outcome or situation on this. Okay. I don't see anything here saying that the lawsuit's going to proceed or that anybody else is going to bring it up. But this is effectively no different than a company changing its website and scrubbing DEI from it and saying, okay, well, we'll play by the rules now. Without some kind of accountability, this thing's just going to keep happening. There has to be moral hazard. The longer you let these guys get away with this stuff, even if all you do is like, oh, well, we changed it, we fixed it now. That doesn't send the right message. We can act badly for years and years and years and years. Oh, now we have a 11th hour come to Jesus moment. Oh, well, now everything's fine, guys. Not how I would do it if it were me. And where, oh where, is the federal government? UC San Diego should lose its federal money. Yank it. Yank it, yank it. Why is that? Why is that threat written into Title VI if you're not going to exercise it? If a recipient of federal assistance is found to have discriminated and voluntary compliance cannot be achieved, the federal agency providing the assistance should either initiate fund termination proceedings or refer the matter to the Department of Justice for appropriate legal action. I don't think it is fair to let somebody dodge accountability by changing everything at the last second when they've been doing it for years and breaking the rules for years. If you've been breaking the law for 10 years and suddenly it's like, oh, now I'll comply, your violating of the law for 10 years is just, doesn't matter? Forgiven? No fate to be had there? Oh, I forgot all of my streamer stuff, my banner and my chat window. I got so flustered at the beginning of this. So speaking of which, let's go to the chat real quick. It's a Dodge, better than being a Nissan at least. What's wrong with Nissan? I have a close family member that drives a Nissan. How dare you? It was a good deal too. Let's see, subscribe. Why did you steal my glasses? Finders keepers, Seftus Wolf. If you don't mind your stuff, you can't complain when it goes missing. Sorry. Oh, here, I'll give them back. Now I can't be held accountable for having done it in the first place. See, the theft is erased. I gave them back after stealing. That's how it works in California, apparently, and elsewise. Jay Blizzard, did the glasses have eyeballs in them when you found them? I'm not telling. Scribe just redistributed the vision. Yes, Dr. Tongue's House of 3D Glasses. Ooh, 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 ooh. I am blind as a bat without my glasses. I really am. I'm terrible, terrible vision. I'm someday, maybe, because it's not exactly cheap. Someday I'd like to get an assessment for the laser deals, because my general, 5 senses, if I can preserve them into my elder years, I'd appreciate that too. But anyway, let's see. What's that? Isn't that an SCTV reference? Is it? Is it an SCTV reference? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, do you know who Joel Flaherty is? He played Dracula. Eugene Levy. Martin Short. John Candy. Man. Those were the days. SCTV and Kids in the Hall, like actual real comedy, and it was all from Canada. Boy, oh boy. Oh, those Canadians. Yes, Count Floyd. There you go. Count Floyd. Faithless. I got LASIK, it wore off. I have been told, and I don't know if the science has changed a whole lot, I have been told that you have to wait until your prescription has effectively leveled off before getting LASIK, because if your eyes keep adjusting and your prescription keeps changing, obviously if you get, I have 20/20 vision, and then your vision deteriorates. So I think you have to have it's something like 3 to 5 years of proof that your prescription has been static before you should think about getting LASIK or something. My prescription has not changed in at least 3 years. So I'm going to wait a little bit, make sure, but I'm not going to really inquire about it until I know that I'm going to get the most bang for my proverbial buck when the time comes. So it lasted 17 years. Oh, well, okay. I'd take 17 years of good vision or better vision. But I still am so used to having glasses on that I'd probably still wear glasses anyway, even if they're just clear. Anyway, let's move on from that to something I can't read now, or maybe. Okay, can I? What's all this nonsense? All right. Speaking of the University of California, but not San Diego, Santa Cruz, a research-backed defense of DEI programs. A trio of biomedical students at the University of California and University of Massachusetts have written a research-backed defense of DEI programs that was published in Nature Cell Biology. Okay. They assert that such programs broaden participation in and democratize science, ultimately producing more effective and supportive training environments for all scientists. If ever there was an area of our world, and not to say it's the only one, but at least, science and medicine, probably where you want to have the best people involved, regardless of what they look like. DEI cares about what you look like, first and foremost. Merit and skill and everything is, at best, a secondary, often a tertiary consideration. But okay. The lead author of the commentary, quote, "Scaling back DEI programs and the loss of scientific talent," unquote, right, is Needy, she might be Needy, Needhai Bala, professor of molecular cell and developmental biology at UC Santa Cruz. Her co-authors are professors Joanne Trejo at UC San Diego, UC San Diego, and Mary Munson at UMass. To support their case, they cite research that rooted the National Institutes of Health's previous stance in support of diversity before it was reversed, but can still be found online. Okay, quote, "Data shows," what data? "That expansion of those who participate in academic science produces better science that has a wider impact," unquote. The expansion of those who participate. Quote, "Demographic diversity produces greater novelty, links concepts in new combinations, and results in studies with higher impact and more citations." Quantify higher impact and more citations, bigger number better. They conclude that broadening participation, quote, "creates a wider and more relevant array of scientific research questions and approaches." Examples, please. "And results in more innovative science and technologies that benefit all people." I've been hearing about how DEI improves everything, everywhere, all at once, all the time, for 9 years. And yet, what do I constantly demand, if not politely ask for, during presentations of DEI consultants and panel discussions? Success stories, active examples. Show me the money. Where's the money, Lebowski? Don't point to a McKinsey study. I want to see the success story. I want to see the poster child organization, company, whatever, that has, here's where we were when we started DEI, and here's where we are after. And we have direct, obvious proof that it was DEI that took us from here to here, and not correlation equals causation. Going backwards to a time when only certain demographic groups could or were able to participate in science. Okay, what did we just read, finally, thankfully, from USA Today? Oh yeah, that's right. Only certain people were allowed to be hired into boardrooms under DEI. Who were those people? Well, they were based on their race and their gender. And if you were not the correct race and not the correct gender, your chances of being included were diminished significantly. So going backwards to a time when only certain demographic groups could or were able to participate in science. Oh, you mean the last 10 years? Promises to be a disaster of our multi-dimensional democracy and the global community, and will stall the progress of science and innovation that shapes our future. Well, I guess we're about to find out. Because the racist, sexist, illegal policies that schools like the University of California at its various outlets have been practicing for years and years and years have been put on notice. So I guess we'll see. I guess it'll be an interesting experiment. Hey, you're scientists. You should be excited. I mean, you might be disappointed that your personal ideology is not being promoted anymore as much, but you should be excited at the prospect of, well, let's see what happens in the next 10 years to innovation and progress and everything else if we take off all of the binders on who we're allowed to hire, on who we're allowed to have on campus. If we stop assessing people on the basis of their race or their gender, first and foremost. Imagine a world without institutionalized discrimination. Let's see what happens. Hi, Columba. Daryl Liddell, multi-dimensional democracy. Is there a democracy in the fifth dimension? Maybe. Of a kind, I suppose. Someday we'll get there. Maybe with non-DEI science, we'll be able to cross the dimensional barriers. We'll see. And now our last story. And when I saw this, I thought to myself, this might be a good example of the, well, I'll just say it, the stupidity of vocabulary-based legislation, statute, and rules decisions. What do I mean by vocabulary-based? I've said it before, but maybe not in that way. Let's see what this story says. Bird Conservancy of the Rockies loses federal grants over mysterious DEI accusations. The nonprofit based at Bar Lake lost $1.4 million budgeted to support cooperative research with federal agencies and to match state and private grants. Okay, so we have an organization that accepts federal financial assistance. Okay, so they are under and held by Title VI by law. Okay. Now, again, I haven't read this story yet, but I read the headline a little bit, and I thought to myself, a revered Brighton-based wildlife conservation group, more accustomed to thinking about diversity of species, is suddenly in the crosshairs of the federal campaign against using resources for diversity in human interactions. Okay, that's one way of putting it, I guess. Bird Conservancy of the Rockies, expert in bird banding, species and habitat research, and connecting people to open space, is appealing to donors for help after $1.37 million in federal agreements were, quote, abruptly canceled. Blindsided, the Bird Conservancy said. The Conservancy leaders only learned about the cut through an article in the conservative Daily Caller. You'd think they'd be given some kind of notice. That media outlet said the Interior Department had canceled the grant over language in Bird Conservancy's strategic plan on, quote, recruiting, hiring, training, and investing in staff and the organization to increase engagement, diversity, accessibility, and inclusivity across the communities we live and work, unquote. Okay, now that's about as far, that's the only bit that I read prior to this. And so I don't know what happens next. We'll see what the rest of the article says. But here's where the rubber meets the road. The question is this organization in compliance with federal law? Do they have hiring quotas that are based on race or gender or something else that would, have their federal funds canceled, rightly or otherwise? Or is it just vocabulary in their public statements? I cannot stress enough how much you cannot punish somebody under civil rights law simply for the vocabulary in their statements. There has to be a showing that they broke the law. Okay? Because it muddies the waters. The law's been there since 1964. So Do they have, or have they ever been shown to, discriminate in hiring or their programs or activities on the basis of race, specifically to lose their federal funding in this case? Because there's a First Amendment issue here that you really have to pay attention to. Just using the word diversity in a public statement does not mean that you're violating Title VI or that you've broken the law. And that's why Trump's executive orders, in my opinion, muddy the waters, even though they brought light and underscored the importance of paying attention to DEI and the implications thereof. It also set a very, very strange bar of those three words becoming anathema and actionable, which I don't think should be the case. But let's see what the story says. None of their federal money was used to promote the kinds of DEI programs the Trump administration officially loathes, Bird Conservancy of the Rockies said. Okay. Money is fungible. It doesn't matter whether they were used to promote it or not. If you accepted federal financial assistance in any way, shape, or form, you are bound by the restrictions of Title VI. So the question is, in any of your hiring practices, programs, activities, anything, were you discriminating on the basis of race or some equitable element under law? The canceled grants account for about 10% of the group's annual budget, meant to support cooperative research agreements with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, National Park Service, and the Bureau of Land Management. But the risk is even higher, the donor appeal says, because Bird Conservancy, quote, leverages, unquote, the grants with state and private matches. My brain keeps getting caught on this. It's not a quote, but just this statement here within the article. None of the federal money was used to promote the kinds of DEI programs the Trump administration officially loathes. What kinds of programs was it used for? Or what kinds of programs does the Bird Conservancy take part in that they say the money didn't go towards? Quote, this looks like the logical result when they blindly cancel vital and worthwhile scientific work without warning or explanation, one Bird Conservancy of the Rockies volunteer said. Well, if they're telling the truth and the first time they learned about it was on the Daily Caller, then I'll admit that they should have at least gotten a letter or some kind of formal notice ahead of time. One of the higher profile efforts of the Conservancy is a bird banding station in spring and fall at Barrel. I don't care. Are any of their programs or hiring activities or anything else race-based? They talk about the bird activities, their funding, federal agencies. The federal agencies previously involved with the Bird Conservancy grants are part of the shutdown precipitated by the congressional budget standoff and did not respond to inquiries about the group or the canceled grants. Okay, I need more information. Because this could go one of two ways. Either they got zapped because of language in their public statements alone, or there's something actionable going on that's just simply not mentioned in this article and that the Conservancy just isn't talking about. I mean, it is suspect. Like I say, if an organization uses the language of diversity, accessibility, inclusivity, equity, on and on, that is a red flag for investigating, in my mind, but it is not an immediate, you're in trouble. You have to find something systemic within the organization that violates the law. Rhetoric alone, in my opinion, should not be punished by yanking federal money. Because, well, not only is it unfair, but it also dilutes and does an end run around established civil rights law. The laws are already there. So the Conservancy, just not that it would be the highest priority on my list. I personally go after universities and corporations that accept federal contracts. But something like this is where an audit needs to take place. This is where DEI needs an IRS. Oh, this organization is promoting in their public statements rhetoric that would suggest, possibly, that they've been participating in discriminatory programs, activities, and or hiring programs. Possibly. Let's investigate. Right? When the Securities and Exchange Commission goes into a financial institution to do an audit to check that everything's okay, same thing here. You need an organization that looks into these companies for compliance. This alone, and I don't know if it is, maybe there's something more substantive. Maybe there is something more substantive here. But we've seen this happen again and again with organizations that say, well, I use the word diversity in my class curriculum. Am I breaking the law? Because the statutes and the laws that are being passed against DEI are so broad in their language that conceivably maybe someone is technically breaking the law. Anyway, there's my bit on the crimes of vocabulary. Faithless. The rhetoric can be considered policy, though, if it is implied that, i.e., white people need not apply because you won't even be considered. No, I don't want implication. I don't want people being cited for the implied threat of something. There has to be proof. And if a company or organization is engaging in this stuff, it's easy to find. It is easy to find. Most companies are more than willing, either now or certainly in the past, to broadcast the fact that they take part in these things. You have to find internal documents. I don't want hearsay. I don't want, oh, well, they used the wrong word. They can't use that word. No. This is why audits for compliance need to take place. Are you within the law or not? Are you just giving lip service to the progressive side of the world with your mention of diversity and stuff, or are you actually doing something? Again, using that language is a red flag that should at least trigger an investigation or put that organization on a list for an audit of some kind of compliance examination. But the rhetoric alone can't be seen as a violation of the law, in my mind. When I say rhetoric alone, I'm talking about those words. If your rhetoric says, hey, we hate white people and we're going to only hire people because of what they look like, okay, that rhetoric might be actionable if it's like a company executive or something making a public declaration, which I've highlighted on many an occasion on my channel, and nothing's happened to those companies. But hey, DOJ, I have a library of public, unsolicited testimonials of illegal hiring practices from major corporations. Well, if you did call me, I'd be kind of freaked out. But anyway, it's the government. They already know who I am somewhere. Anyway, that's our last story. Bird Conservancy. I would love to know what the government's cause of action was. Because I hope it was something more than a press release with the magic words in them. The magic word should not make something illegal or cause you to lose your federal funding. It makes you suspect. Shouldn't make you an immediate villain. Clamhammer, mostly because of the narrowness of ass. Now what? Why am I coming into arguments that are just... You guys are having conversations I don't quite understand, and I'm only coming in halfway through. Sliders? You mean those little hamburger things? Or are you talking about Professor Arturo and Rembrandt Brown being caught in Quinn Mallory's vortex of dimensional travel? I may have watched that show before. Abdicatus, Scribe Light. To be fair, though, Scribe, that article didn't really go all that deep into the story in any way. Yeah, I know. That's what was disappointing to me. I want to know more. It's like, well, do I believe the Conservancy that they received no notice? Did the government do it blindly without any kind of justification? I don't know. That article didn't tell me enough. They barely told us what they were doing, let alone if there was an investigation. Yeah, and like I say, the fact that they use that language in their public, statements of intent or mission statement or whatever, it's a red flag, certainly. But that article did not give me the information I hoped it would. So, anything else, guys? I think that was it. There's the show. Programming note, I'll be doing a special. And I'm not going to tell you why it's special. I want to be a surprise. But this Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern will be another episode, as always, of TED Excellence. But it is a special Halloween episode. What's special about it, you say? Well, it'll be Halloween themed in more ways than one. And if everything goes to plan, there will be another face reveal. Yes, friends, there will be another face reveal. Who could I be talking about? I'm not telling you. You're going to have to find out for yourself. You have to show up, or watch it in the future after it's already up. Because I'm not telling you. But, so look out for that. This Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, the special Halloween TED Excellence. Halloween themed. I'm putting a lot of work into this. Woo! And a secondary face reveal. Possibly the chimp. Bubbles? What? Scribe will be dressed like... You're supposed to predicate that with spoiler alert. Jerk. Scribe will show us the face of the twin he ate in the womb that is on his stomach. Open your mind to me, Quaid. Open your mind to me. Anyway, do you know that I have a Discord server? I have a Discord server. Link to the Discord server is in the chat right now. Click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you're not a bot. Actually watch the stream and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is Halloween! Just say, hello, Halloween, and I'll know that you watched the show. Outside of that, again, Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, TED Excellence. Halloween special. Not so special now that certain secrets have been revealed, but, it'll be special. I swear. I promise. Cross my heart. Let's see, anything else? I think that's all the excitement. That's all the excitement I have to say. And even meh, got it. Quaid start the reactor. Yeah. Oh, Quato, savior of Mars. How little we knew ye. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the donation link at the top of the chat box, to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciate it. Everyone, I hope you've had a good Monday so far, and I hope you have a good rest of the week ahead of you. I hope to see you on Halloweeny Thursday for Halloween TED Excellence. And with that, I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.